Day 73, Chapter 18, page 257. It will be urged that the few who stand in opposition to an institution of the Church and the law of the state ought not to be tolerated, that it is better for them to suffer than for the whole nations to be thrown into confusion and lawlessness. The same argument 1800 years ago was brought against Christ by the rulers of the people. This argument will appear conclusive. Death for all who do not honor the Sunday. A decree went forth to slay the saints, which caused them to cry day and night for deliverance. As Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, issued a decree that all who would not bow down and worship this image should be killed, so a proclamation will be made that all who will not reverence the Sunday institution will be punished with imprisonment and death. Let all read carefully the 13th chapter of Revelation, for it concerns every human agent, great and small. The time of trouble is about to come upon the people of God. Then it is that the decree will go forth forbidding those who keep the Sabbath of the Lord to buy or sell, and threatening them with punishment and even death if they do not observe the first day of the week as Sabbath. The powers of the earth, uniting to war against the commandments of God, will decree that all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, Revelation 13 verses 16, shall conform to the customs of the church by the observance of the false Sabbath. All who refuse compliance will be visited with civil penalties, and it will finally be declared that they are deserving of death. Especially will the wrath of man be aroused against those who hallow the Sabbath of the fourth commandment, and at last a universal decree will announce these as deserving of death. Decree similar to that issued by Azarias. The decree that will finally go forth against the remnant people of God will be very similar to that issued by Azarias against the Jews. Today the enemies of the true church see in the little company keeping the Sabbath commandment a Mordecai at the gate. The reverence of God's people for his law is a constant rebuke to those who have cast off the fear of the Lord and are trampling on his Sabbath. I saw the leading men of the earth consulting together, and Satan and his angels busy around them. I saw a writing, copies of which were scattered in different parts of the land, giving orders that unless the saints should yield their peculiar faith, give up the Sabbath, and observe the first day of the week, the people were at liberty after a certain time to put them to death. If the people of God will put their trust in him, and by faith rely upon his power, the devices of Satan will be defeated in our time as signally as in the days of Mordecai. The remnant make God their defense, and at that time Michael shall stand up, the great prince which standeth for the children of thy people, and there shall be a time of trouble, such as never was since there was a nation even to that same time. And at that time thy people shall be delivered, every one that shall be found written in the book. Daniel 12 verse 1. When this time of trouble comes, every case is decided. There is no longer probation, no longer mercy for the impenitent. The seal of the living God is upon his people. The small remnant, unable to defend themselves in the deadly conflict with the powers of earth that are marshalled by the dragon host, make God their defense. The decree has been passed by the highest earthly authority that they shall worship the beast and receive his mark under the pain of persecution and death. May God help his people now, for what can they then do in such a fearful conflict without his assistance? God's people flee the cities, many imprisoned. As a decree issued by the various rulers of Christendom against commandment keepers shall withdraw the protection of the government and abandon them to those who desire their destruction, the people of God will flee from the cities and villages and associate together in companies, dwelling in the most desolate and solitary places. Many will find refuge in the strongholds of the mountains, but many of all nations and of all classes, high and low, rich and poor, black and white, will be cast into the most unjust and cruel bondage. The beloved of God pass weary days bound in chains, shut in prison bars, sentenced to be slain, some apparently left to die of starvation in a dark and lonesome dungeons. Though a general decree has fixed the time when the commandment keepers may be put to death, their enemies will in some case anticipate the decree, and before the specified will endeavor to take their lives. But none can pass the mighty guardians stationed about every faithful soul. Some are assailed in their flight from the cities and the villages, but the swords raised against them break and fall, powerless as a straw. Others are defended by angels in the form of men of war. The people of God are not at this time all in one place. They are in different companies and in all parts of the earth, and they will be tried singly, not in groups. Everyone must stand the test for himself. The faith of individual members of the church will be tested as though there were not another person in the world.